Hello and welcome to Tochnyi Weekly, the show that gets behind the headlines to discuss the full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine. We have a great show for you this week. It's been quite an eventful week, I'd say, not just in Ukraine, but all over the world. But of course, lots of stuff happened in Ukraine. So we've got several special guests today to talk about that. But as usual, first I will present the news. Germany to Ukraine will present his report. Then we'll have our guest, ATP Geopolitics on, Jonathan from ATP Geopolitics. That will be followed by a discussion of the recent gigantic explosions in Russia from one of our GeoInt experts, Brian. So I'll go ahead and jump right into the news. So we'll get started. Ukrainian law enforcement has identified the weapons and military units involved in a Russian attack on Red Cross workers in the Donetsk region that I reported on last week. The Prosecutor General's office shared that on September 12th, Russian forces targeted 3 International Committee of the Red Cross vehicles at a humanitarian aid station in Vyrolyubka, Konstantinivka communities using artillery fire. 5 Red Cross workers were affected, with 3 men killed and 2 others injured by shrapnel and blast impacts. The Donetsk Regional Prosecutor's Office initiated a pretrial investigation into violations of laws of war and intentional murder of civilians. Investigators discovered 2 artillery impact sites, one from a drone strike as well. Fragments of artillery shells and drone debris were retrieved, and evidence from the investigation, including statements from witnesses and forensic analysis of the scene, revealed that 252-millimeter artillery shells and a Lancet drone, which of course are used exclusively by the Russian military, were involved. And the drone was equipped with a laser rangefinder, which would indicate that it was an intentional targeting. They also determined the direction of the attack and linked it to a specific Russian artillery unit station in Yahidne, which is part of the 1065th Artillery Regiment of the 98th Airborne Division and the 200 Separate Motor Rifle Brigade. And they, of course, are equipped with those weapons. So it seems like they found out who did it. Also, the foreign minister of Ukraine announced that Kyiv has alerted the International Atomic Energy Agency about Russia's plans to target a key nuclear energy site in Ukraine ahead of winter. He highlighted concerns over potential strikes on open switchgears at nuclear power plants and transmission substations, which are vital for the safe operation of nuclear energy infrastructure. He warned that any damage to these facilities could lead to a serious nuclear incident with worldwide repercussions. Ukrainian intelligence has shared their information with international partners, and the IAEA has been notified of what's going on. And he pointed out that Russia is the only nation in Europe to regularly threaten global security with nuclear threats. Sabiha also urged all nations and international bodies to uphold the UN Charter and take steps to prevent such actions. And he expressed gratitude to the IAEA for recently expanding its presence at multiple Ukrainian energy sites and called for a swift implementation of agreements and the need for a permanent, larger IAEA mission at critical facilities. Finally, for this topic, the city of Sumi's critical infrastructure was hit by an airstrike this week, causing a complete power outage for all water supply facilities, according to a statement from the city council, or the Oblast Council. The attack occurred at 1 a.m. on September 17th, leaving the water area without electricity. Backup power systems have been activated, but water is being supplied at highly reduced pressure, and the drainage system is still currently operational. The airstrike was carried out by Shahed drones and was part of a larger attack on Sumy at night. President Zelensky rejected claims made by the Wall Street Journal that 80,000 Ukrainian soldiers have currently died in the war with Russia, calling the figure inaccurate. During a meeting with journalists on September 20th, Zelensky stated that the actual number is, quote, significantly lower. The Wall Street Journal reported on September 17th that combined Ukrainian and Russian military casualties since the start of the full-scale invasion could exceed 1 million at this stage. The article referenced confidential Ukrainian estimates from earlier in the year, suggesting that 80,000 Ukrainian soldiers had died with 400,000 wounded. It was also mentioned that Western intelligence estimates put Russian deaths at up to 200,000 with a similar number of wounded. In response, Colonel Roman Kostenko, a member of the Ukrainian parliament and secretary of the Parliamentary Security on National Defense, disputed the 80,000 figure and called that an exaggeration. In February, Zelensky reported that 31,000 Ukrainian soldiers had been killed since the start of the invasion. So, it's hard to say which is more accurate. Also, kind of in a similar vein, the German newspaper Bild this week reported that President Zelensky was allegedly preparing to propose a ceasefire in specific areas of the war zone, but the president's communications advisor, Dmitry Litvin, dismissed the claim. He said the Bild article, which was circulated on the 15th, is not accurate, and that the peace plan, there were these details about like what the peace plan included, but again, the president's office refuted all these statements and claims, and they called the entire report fake, and emphasized that Bild hadn't seen any kind of victory. So Bild used the term peace plan. Ukraine uses the term victory plan. So they kind of, in their statement, they kept saying victory plan. So Bild had not seen the victory plan, and none of the officials working on it had spoken with the newspaper. Litvin reiterated that Ukraine firmly opposes freezing the conflict, such as agreements like Minsk III, and is committed to defending their territory and not like freezing the conflict for it to start again later. And he stressed their focus is on securing the backing of the United States for victory and not on reaching a settlement that would halt or pause military efforts. So yeah, just kind of like two reports from the media this week that sort of contradict that the Ukrainian official line has very vocally contradicted. So I wanted to point that out. I'm not, it's not for me to say who's true or what's right, but I just wanted to point out what the official statements are and where they came from. For the first time, Ukraine participated in NATO-led exercises in the Netherlands focused on testing countermeasures against drones. This is an exercise called CUAS TIE, which took place from September 10th to 20th and involved 450 participants from 19 NATO member countries and 3 partner nations. The event focused on ensuring smooth operations and technical interoperability of anti-drone systems for NATO, and representatives from Ukraine as well as from the private sector and scientific community also took part and observed the exercises. For more than 60 technologies, this is like a showcase for real-world conditions. The exercise is part of a roadmap for innovative cooperation, which was approved at the Washington Summit this year. The exercise offers a platform to address key challenges, including the autonomy and coordination of unmanned aerial systems and integrating Ukraine's combat experience into countering drones for NATO. And the NATO Secretary General, Jens Stoltenberg, emphasized Ukraine's path to NATO, and NATO integration is like underway, and this is like an example of that. Also, kind of in a similar vein, a representative from Ukraine's Ministry of Defense, usually they have these telethons in Ukraine, and sometimes officials will make statements at them. And he mentioned at one of these that 6,500 volunteers, that number has consistently been what Ukraine has recruited each month for the past few months, and that volunteers apply through military units, recruitment centers, and online platforms. And he said that the number of women applying to the armed forces is about 15 to 17% higher than the current number of women serving, and that younger applicants are also applying. So, just kind of some general, he seemed somewhat positive about the recruitment situation. I think that's pretty much it. So that's pretty much it for operational news. I'll go ahead and move on to military aid and procurement stuff. Ukraine's Ministry of Defense has received €40 million from Denmark as part of a larger aid package supporting Ukrainian domestic weapons production. The Danish contribution, which is around a total of 50 million, I don't understand the discrepancy there, sorry, is specifically aimed at funding the production of 18 Ukrainian-made Bodana self-propelled artillery systems. We've known this for a little while. He emphasized that this support is the defense minister of Ukraine emphasized that the support is crucial for bolstering Ukraine's defense capabilities. I'll just add that the Ukrainians have been saying for a long time they have extra capacity to produce defense equipment if Europeans can just invest money into this scheme. So Denmark has obliged, and this is one of the first schemes that has shown some results, and it's looking pretty good so far. Denmark has already funded the production of 18 systems, which have been delivered to Ukraine's armed forces. And Denmark highlighted that they're the first EU country to finance weapons through this mechanism, and pointed out that producing weapons in Ukraine is not only more cost effective than manufacturing them in Western Europe, but they're less expensive to maintain. And they've called on other European countries to follow suit, encouraging investment in Ukraine's local defense industry. The Badana self-propelled artillery system, of course, is a Ukrainian system and was adopted by their military in 2023. So this is just a big chunk of aid in general included in this. So also in that vein, Latvia's defense ministry will supply Ukraine with CVRT tracked combat reconnaissance armored vehicles, originally purchased from the UK for security reasons. The exact number of vehicles being sent was not disclosed. They mentioned that Latvia is in the final stages of acquiring new armored personnel carriers to replace those vehicles, so they're going to send them to Ukraine. The initial contract for 123 of those vehicles that Latvia purchased was signed in 2014, and 116 of them were known to be upgraded already. Latvia signed another contract to procure additional vehicles from the UK. And Latvia has sort of talked about this donation as part of its commitment to contribute at least 0.25% of its total GDP to Ukraine. And Latvia is also in that same package providing Ukraine with computer equipment, specialized clothing, binoculars, and other gear. Also, Norway is planning a significant increase in its support for Ukraine by expanding the Nansen program from 75 billion to 135 billion Norwegian kroner, which is approximately 13 billion US dollars by 2030. According to, Panorama Nyheter, which is, I assume, a Norwegian news publication. The Norwegian government has proposed an immediate increase of 5 billion kroner, which is about $500 million this year, along with a commitment to provide around 15 billion or 1.4 billion annually until 2030. The Prime Minister announced on September 20th that this followed discussions with the Parliament. The plan includes extending the Nansen program by 3 years, so it was supposed to go to 2027, so now it's going to be extended to 2030 in response to the growing consequences and the growing length of the war in Ukraine. The finance minister emphasized the importance of a unified approach to the challenges posed by the war. They all have names, and I'm just glossing over them. Despite general support for the increase in the opposition, the Liberal Party voiced some concerns, noting that while additional aid is essential, they believe the war should end before that time, and they criticized the government for not matching higher levels of support provided by neighboring countries like Denmark. Yeah, why can't you guys be more like Denmark? The Nansen program by Norway covers both military and civilian aid to Ukraine, and Norway has been a key supporter, recently allocating around 14 million to the International Fund for the purchase of drones and air defense systems. That was like the last major thing they did. White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan announced that the U.S. is preparing to send a substantial military aid package to Ukraine by the end of the month. The assistance is intended to bolster Ukraine's defense against Russian advances and safeguard key infrastructure. According to Bloomberg, Sullivan meets daily with his team to assess the needs of Ukraine. A key focus of Ukraine's request has been known to be more air defense systems, which the U.S. is currently working to supply from partner nations. Additionally, Sullivan highlighted the importance of reinforcing protection around Ukraine's energy infrastructure, including concrete barriers around transformers and substations to protect against drone strikes. He emphasized especially the need to protect nuclear energy plants. He also mentioned the upcoming meeting with Zelensky. I think that'll happen this week or next week. And that'll also, there should be some kind of high-level meetings going on in the U.S. With over 4 months before the U.S. presidential elections. Sullivan stressed that every day is crucial in terms of supporting Ukraine, and that Zelensky plans to present a victory plan in the U.S. For that meeting. Ukraine has been advocating, of course, for the use of Western weapons to target military installations deeper in Russian territory. And Sullivan stated that the goal is to strengthen Ukraine's position on the battlefield. We had a longer discussion about kind of targeting in Russia last week. I wouldn't say there's been any meaningful developments on that. It's still kind of a muddy, messy story in terms of like what's actually going on. I would say the official statement is no long-range strikes. There's been some talk that maybe there's some unofficial things going on, but anyway, hopefully we'll get more clarity next week. Also, I guess kind of in the vein of European military aid, a group of Ukrainian military pilots has completed their Air Force training on Alpha Jet trainer aircraft, according to the French General Staff. The training started in March 2024 and aimed to meet Ukraine's operational needs as part of France's broader support for the country. The accelerated program is tailored for Ukrainian F-16 fighter pilots, and it took place in an undisclosed airbase in southwestern France, where young Ukrainian pilots, including those with no prior experience, who had flown, and some of the others who had flown only trainer aircraft, underwent the course. The French Air and Space Forces are committed to training 26 total pilots over 2 years. Prior to starting their flight exercises, the pilots completed several months of pre-preparation in the UK, including language training. The training program was significantly accelerated to last for 6 months, which is compared to the usual 18-month course. The expedited approach, of course, is for the urgent demands for pilots. And the French media reported that France plans to upgrade its Mirage jets for Ukraine. Like, in other words, like alongside the reports about this happening, like French media reported that. And these aircraft will be modified to target both air and ground positions in response to Ukraine's immediate need for a versatile combat aircraft. Again, these are just statements from the French media. In September, Ukraine's Defense Procurement Agency signed contracts to procure 1,300 DJI Mavic drones of various models, which amounted to approximately $4 million, according to a report by a Ukrainian-focused finance media outlet. They cited information from the Prozoro public procurement system, which is like a transparent system that the Ukrainian government bids on contracts. The contracts include orders for 500 Mavic 3T drones equipped with thermal imagers, and they noted that this is a record low for military drone prices, and they sort of praised the Prozoro platform as allowing for transparent pricing, and that keeps costs low. Additionally, they signed 5 more contracts to purchase 800 more DJI 3E drones. These are daytime models, and they included like extra battery chargers, and that increased the cost. And several other drone configurations were purchased as well. And this kind of seems to be indication of a larger use of both official government sanctioning of buying drones and also the Prozoro procurement platform. Also, Ukraine's military industry has resumed. I should mention, this is all a big topic, I guess we could call Ukrainian military industry. Ukraine's military industry resumed production of 5.45 and 5.56 ammunition, in other words, Soviet caliber small arms ammunition for like AK-47s, and 5.56 for M16s. This is according to the On Weapons Ukrainian Telegram channel, and it was reported by Militarny. A photo was shared by the blog that showed Ukrainian manufactured 5.45 rounds from an ammo dump. With the packaging indicated that they were produced in June. The cartridges contained bullets with an all-metal shell. I don't know. There's lots of facts about Ukrainian small arms ammunition that we don't need to really get into. But yeah, Ukraine's now producing their own small arms ammo. Also, Ukrainian Armor, the company, is set to expand its artillery ammunition production by constructing a new factory in Ukraine. We found out this week, according to the CEO, that it's not being disclosed what type of ammunition, but they confirmed that 152, in other words, Soviet, is not part of the production plan. I would guess 155, but they confirmed that they will be building a new facility, and currently manufactures 60 and 120 millimeter artillery shells, producing hundreds of thousands of rounds annually. So I guess the takeaway from that is just that they're going to be building a new facility to construct even more shells. Also, Ukraine's defense ministry approved the use of the Tochnyi all-terrain amphibious vehicle for the Ukrainian armed forces. This is a self it's like a ground drone. It's quite a large one. You've probably seen footage of it. I should have gotten footage of it. I'm sorry. But the vehicle's compact size and ability to turn in place make it a highly maneuverable drone in confined spaces. It can handle difficult terrain like swamps, floodplains, and deep snow, and is capable of exiting water onto the ice. Its tires, because they're so large, exert less pressure on the surface than a human foot, which enables it to traverse really unstable and loose ground. It's equipped to overcome obstacles over a meter high and can carry up to 1 metric ton of cargo, or around 10 passengers. As of early June, they approved 110 models of military vehicles, with about 1/3 produced domestically and the rest supplied by around 20 countries. And sort of in the same vein, the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense also approved the use of the Rochelle Senator MRAP armored vehicle for the Ukrainian Armed Forces. It's a Canadian-made vehicle. It's designed to protect its crew from mines and ambushes, and features a distinctive V-shaped floor, which is designed to disperse explosion and shocks, shock-absorbing seats, which protect the occupants from mines. The Rochelle Senator is built on the Ford F-550 heavy pickup truck chassis and was originally intended for police forces. However, it's been upgraded to meet specific needs of Ukrainian troops, and they've reinforced it and made it better for military use. And it's known that their production numbers are quite high. I remember the number cited to me was around 9 a day. So obviously, I don't know about that specific vehicle, the Senator, but we're talking about pretty high production numbers. So it could be a good source of armored vehicles for Ukraine, or at least MRAP vehicles specifically. So that does it for military aid stuff and procurement stuff. We're going to now go to economy. As I reported as of a few weeks ago, the International Monetary Fund was set to head to Russia for the first meeting that they would have had since the full-scale invasion. However, the International Monetary Fund has indefinitely postponed their planned staff mission to Moscow for the reasons that basically Europe, a lot of European nations voiced their objections. And the executive IMF director confirmed that the decision to delay the mission was made on Monday, and that the IMF has since responded to that criticism by postponing the mission. And yeah, it's indefinitely postponed. So it seems like, yeah, the European criticism had some impact on the IMF, and they'll no longer, they don't seem to be planning to go anytime soon. The European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced that the European Union will provide Ukraine with a €35 billion loan backed by profits from immobilized Russian assets. The announcement was made during a joint press conference with the Ukrainian presidents in Kyiv. They highlighted the importance of the loan, noting that Ukraine needs to maintain the functioning of its state economy. I think I mentioned last week, obviously, the Ukrainian budget is pretty highly in debt. And that these funds will bolster Ukrainian defenses against Russian aggression. The $35 billion loan is part of the G7 commitment that was made earlier this year, and it's a significant step towards Ukrainian budgetary improvements. And it should go directly into Ukraine's national budget, which will enhance the country's financial stability. Additionally, at that conference, they announced $160 million to Ukraine to support its energy security ahead of the winter season. They highlighted that since Russia's invasion, Ukraine has provided $2 billion to support Ukraine's energy sector, and this additional $160 million is designed to help with their long-term energy needs and challenges. They are also providing Ukraine around 2 gigawatts of electricity, which will cover around 12% of the country's energy needs, which will compensate somewhat for the power generation loss from the nuclear plant currently under Russian occupation and the Russian attacks on the energy grid. Finally, they stressed the importance of boosting Ukraine's energy production, focusing on decentralizing and expanding renewable energy, which she said the EU will help Ukraine to achieve. Russian authorities have allegedly begun shifting trade with China to cryptocurrencies, according to a report by the Moscow Times. This is an experimental legal framework which is being allowed by a select group of importers, including electronics manufacturers. Some members of the Russian financial and industrial establishment have been allowed to pay for Chinese goods using digital currencies. The companies chosen for the experiment primarily deal with dual-use goods, which can be used for both civilian and military purposes. Recently, there have been significant payment challenges with banks in China and other countries. And the Russian government, in order to resolve these issues, started this program to allow the companies with the largest turnover with China to try this method. The initiative enables cryptocurrency transactions under the supervision of the Russian Central Bank. The Ministry of Finance are responsible for determining which companies can participate in the legal system. And currently, medium-sized businesses are excluded, so only large firms are allowed to do this. Russian law, so the reason it's kind of unique or interesting is that Russian law doesn't explicitly prohibit using cryptocurrencies for foreign payments, but there are no established legal precedents, and in general, Russia has been kind of hostile to cryptocurrency. The experimental regime simplifies the process of converting cryptocurrencies into fiat Russian currency through banks, and it provides companies with a clear path for conducting transactions. There are concerns by Russians, or like the Russian financial institutions have cited concerns that the use of cryptocurrencies to bypass international sanctions isn't like a great idea because blockchain transactions are transparent. Therefore, they could be easily identified. Therefore, it's probably smarter, according to these Russian, people that were talked about it in the Russian media, to focus on activities that fall outside of sanctions. So, for example, dual-use goods. This, again, comes as more than 98% of Chinese banks are currently refusing to accept payments from Russia out of fear of secondary sanctions. And this prompted the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, to request a meeting with Chinese leader Xi Jinping to address the growing issues of bank payments between the two countries. So that's it for economic news this week. For my last topic this week, it's international relations and domestic news. So far, Iran has not supplied Russia with the mobile launchers required to deploy the Fateh 360 short-range ballistic missiles that Tehran is believed to have provided Moscow for use against Ukraine. Sources, including a European diplomat and intelligence official, indicated that while Iran have delivered missiles, the necessary launch systems have not been included with that delivery. An American source also confirmed that no launchers have been provided, and they suggested that there's no expectation currently that Moscow will receive the launchers. In other words, if they were going to send them, they probably would have sent them already. They suggested that there's no, or that the reasons are perhaps that Russia will modify existing vehicles for that purpose, or that perhaps Iran is withholding the launchers in some sort of way to negotiate with the West. Iran has already contributed to Russia's war effort by providing a large number of drones, artillery ammunition, as well as assisting in Russian production of drones. The missile supply was confirmed by the U.S. on September 10th, and it was considered a significant deepening of the military relationship between Iran and Russia. And as a response, both the U.S. and U.K. have imposed new sanctions targeting both countries, while the EU's foreign policy chief has proposed additional sanctions for the EU to apply to both countries. Ukraine has extended an offer to assist Portugal in battling the large-scale wildfires currently affecting the country. The Ukrainian Interior Minister announced plans to send a specialized firefighting aircraft from Ukraine's emergency service to aid in extinguishing the fires. These fires have spread across central and northern Portugal and have caused casualties. They're being exacerbated by extreme heat and strong winds. Basically, they mentioned that they met with the Portuguese, that they've devised a plan, and that they intend to send the aircraft. This is a very well-suited aircraft. I'm showing it to you right now. It's suited for firefighting. It's based on the AN-32 platform. It's equipped with 4 external tanks capable of holding 2,000 liters of fire-extinguishing chemicals. These tanks can release the liquid, in various ways, and they have a history of international firefighting support. They've been deployed in many countries by Ukraine to help with national emergencies, like in Turkey in 2021 to combat wildfires there. Ukraine has about 4 of these planes, which are part of a special aviation unit dedicated to firefighting, and they're considered to be highly effective, compared to other aerial firefighting units, because of the obviously constant fires happening in Ukraine as a result of the Russian invasion. Doctors Without Borders, also known as Médecins Sans Frontières, or MSF, announced on September 16th that they will cease their operations in Russia after 32 years of providing medical aid in the country. The organization has been active since the end of the Cold War in 1992, offering treatment and prevention for services like prevention services for diseases like tuberculosis and HIV, assisting homeless populations, and providing humanitarian aid in regions that are poor in Russia, such as Chechnya, Ingushetia, and Dagestan. Throughout the full-scale war so far, they also provided assistance to Russian citizens affected by the war who had crossed into Russia, like Ukrainian refugees, and around... I don't know if they gave a lot of reasoning about why, like now, but MSF was working in partnership with local NGOs in southern Russia. And in 2024, the Russian Justice Ministry sent a letter excluding the Netherlands branch of Médecins Sans Frontières from the register of foreign NGOs allowed to operate. And that forced the Dutch organization to close their programs. And they didn't really specify the reason at the time. So I would assume that this is just kind of like them being cautious, that like they can't just sit there and wait for Russia to just arbitrarily decide that they're going to, be booted out. And my last item for this week, I couldn't help it. I should have just cut this, but Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov has accused billionaire and Tesla CEO Elon Musk of remotely disabling his Tesla Cybertruck, claiming that the vehicle, which had been used in the war against Ukraine, had to be towed from the front line. Kadyrov made this accusation on September 19th, alleging that the Cybertruck had, quote, performed admirably before being disconnected by Tesla. Kadyrov criticized Musk's action, stating that it was, quote, not a manly thing to do, and expressed frustration that the vehicle had to be towed away. There's been no confirmation of any Cybertrucks being used on the battlefield in Ukraine. In other words, we haven't seen any independent video evidence that this ever happened. Kadyrov showed a video showing several Tesla Cybertrucks equipped with machine guns driving through forested areas in what he claimed was Russian-occupied Ukraine. And in August, of course, he famously, the video I'm showing you, posted a video of him driving a Cybertruck around his own palace, fitted with a machine gun, and indicated that the vehicle would be sent to the war. So allegedly, it got shut down. What a tragedy. So I'll go ahead and end here, and I'll turn it over to now my colleague, German Aid to Ukraine. Over to you, sir.
Genau, Hans, genau. First, Germany allocates an additional 100 million euros to aid Ukraine in the upcoming winter. This was announced on Tuesday by Germany's Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock at the ministerial conference at the Moldova Partnership Platform. The funding will be invested into purchasing generators, spare parts for generators, and power plants, and more. On Wednesday, it became known that the German government is allocating another 50 million euros for the medical treatment of war-wounded Ukrainian soldiers in Germany. So far, 1,173 Ukrainian soldiers and civilians have received medical care and treatment in Germany, which is by far the highest share across Europe. Coming to the more interesting stuff for most people, on Thursday, Germany updated its list of military assistance and made public that they have delivered the following military assistance to Ukraine in the past 4 weeks. Just in advance, it's a long list, so grab your popcorn. 3 Cheetah Sparks, 6 Hornet XR UAVs, 20 RQ-35 Hydron UAVs, 12 Songbird UAVs, 20 Zonobot 5 USVs, 30 Vector UAVs, 22 Leopard 1A5 main battle tanks, 22 FFG MREPs, 5 Bandwagen 206 ATVs, 1 Bronco ATTC command vehicle, 3 bridge laying tanks Biber, 8 Mercedes-Benz Zetros tankers for water and fuel, 1 Pioneer Panzer 2A1 DAX, 6 recent 1MC mine clearing tanks, 2 border protection vehicles, 112 regular vehicles, could range from pickups, SUVs to even bigger trucks, 16 ground surveillance radars, Ground Observer 12, 2 TRM-4D air surveillance radars, that's the radar which goes with the Iris TSLM fire units, 10 MG3s, 61,155 shells, 1 million rounds of firearm ammunition, and 2 AMPS self-protection systems for helicopters. So yeah, very good stuff, much needed assistance. Sorry, just dying here. Yeah, I'm okay.
Do you need someone to fill in while you're done?
No, it's fine. I don't know what happened. You hear
I
my
know.
voice. It sounds really strange, doesn't it?
You had the tea. You had the tea, and now it's done.
Okay, I try to finish. And as the last item for this week, 14 Volkswagen Amaroks financed by the Federal Foreign Office were handed over to the National Guard of Ukraine in Kiev. 16 additional vehicles will follow shortly. According to the NGO, the vehicles will be converted and used by mobile fire groups to protect critical infrastructure. And just as the last info, I've decided not to show you another video or image of a selected German delivered equipment as we do every week, as I think we have too much to cover today, or we had too much to cover today, and it's already a longer segment. So yeah, back to you, Erland.
Oh, thank you. I hope you're going to be okay.
Yeah, just man, I'm dying. My heart is I don't know.
Everyone in chat was rooting for him, man.
Yeah, better be. Thank you, guys.
We all wish you a speedy recovery.
Yeah. Thank you.
I just wanted to ask, which is something completely different, but what the hell is going on today? And this is Germany related somehow, because you also use the Eurofighter. What is going on?
Oh no. So regarding the Eurofighter, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Damn. I intentionally not included this, but thank you for reminding me.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah,
We don't have John, we don't have Alex, we don't none of the Air Force guys are here, or missile guys or anything. So
Yeah.
Like
You're
many
the-
things at Tochnyi, it falls upon either the person semi-qualified or who to talk to them last.
the only connection we have here is that German aid to Ukraine, of course, covers German aid, and Germany will have to somehow approve this if it's gonna go through. So yeah.
Yeah. So what has happened is that the Ukrainian Minister of Defense, Rustem Umerov, apparently said in an interview that they are currently in negotiations for the delivery of not only Gripen, but also Eurofighters, which to me at least was a big surprise. He didn't disclose any further details, like how far the negotiations are going, when they started, stuff like this. I just want to say, from my perspective, from a German perspective, that Gripen, of course, make much more sense. That Germany won't deliver any Eurofighters, even if, for example, Great Britain says they want to do it. But I do think, and I want to make that clear, that I do think that Germany won't block exports to Ukraine, as we have done with, I believe, Saudi Arabia, if I recall correctly. Just want to remind you that in April 2023, for example, Germany agreed to the export of MiG-29 fighter jets from Poland to Ukraine within a few hours. So, I think I summarized it very well and short, right?
Yep.
Like, no decision has been taken. It's just announced that negotiations for the delivery are ongoing, and could potentially mean that Ukraine not only gets Mirage and F-16s, but also Gripen and Eurofighters. Although I doubt that Eurofighters would actually be useful for Ukraine.